Good morning, one and all. Welcome to our weekly Sanga Zoom call. So far, we've got Vijay Krishna on board, and Rakesh and Subi are going to lead the opening kirtan. Govinda Dev is traveling to Washington State with his wife to visit his son, so he won't be able to join us today. But we look forward to spending time with those of you who are here and those who will join us shortly. Today is Bhaktivinode Thakur's appearance day. And it is also the day after Vamana Avatar's appearance day. And our verse for the day is 1:1:15. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, 15th verse. So we're open to comments, additions, contributions about the life of Bhaktivinode Thakur. We did have a nice session, nice presentation about a month ago by Govinda about Bhaktivinode Thakur on the occasion of his disappearance day. But anybody wants to add anything today, this is the day that he appeared. This is also the day after Vamana Dvadasi. So you're welcome to share information about that, as well as Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:15. So we've got Pavan and Radhe Shyam. Welcome. Do you hear me all? Put your thumbs up if you
Hare
hear.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you, Prabhuji. We can hear you.
All right, cool. And we've got Sundari Priya joining us here. So why don't we just start with the kirtan from the Raghava family. Rakesh and his daughter Subi will start us out. Hello, Vijay Krishna. Good to see you. There, nice picture in the background. Nice tilak.
Charudas Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
So happy to be here.
Good to have you. We'll start with some kirtan with Rakesh and Subi.
Sure, Prabhuji. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol Prabhuji. Prabhuji, was the sound better today? I installed that app finally today, the Zoom app on my phone. So did it help? The sound was okay?
It was okay. It still broke up a slight bit, but it was okay. There is a feature up on my left hand. There's a drop down that says "Turn on original sound." You may have to go into your settings to activate it, but everybody can do this if they want. I think Zoom hides it because they want to compress the sound so it doesn't take up much bandwidth. But if you go in your settings, I think you can make it so that there's a sign up here. It says turn, when you open Zoom, it'll say turn on original sound. And that'll give you a better sound quality. It takes up more bandwidth, and that's why Zoom doesn't make it very easy, but it gives you a better sound quality. It doesn't give you that clipped, distorted sound. So if anybody can figure out how to do that, it'll make it even better. But today was fine. Yeah, little breakup, but it was good, actually. So we'd like to welcome Rakesh and Subi, Kapilji. I don't. Hi-ho. And with the family in the background there, Pavana, Radhe Sham, Sundari Priya. I have to look at Sundari Priya and see if Sai Mataji is with her today. Hard to tell. It's just looks like a Ranguli sign. Vijay Krishna, welcome. Nice to see what you look like. You're a handsome guy.
Thank you very much.
Rasi Lassen, Amrita Sundari, welcome. So yesterday was Vamana Dvadasi, and Govinda gave a nice talk on that. Some of that information may still be fresh in your minds, so you can share that with us who didn't hear the whole talk. It is also the appearance day of Bhaktivinode Thakur. We did have a wonderful presentation not too long ago by Govinda Dev, less than a month, on Bhaktivinode Thakur. That was his disappearance day. But we're always glad to hear more. And then the verse ties in. The verse is 15th verse, 1st chapter, 1st canto. Yat padasam sayasuta muniapasha sadhupananti upasrisa swadunyapana sevya. It says, sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come into touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges sanctify after only prolonged use. Over and over again, we stress in our Bhakti tradition, we only access the benefits of Bhakti and make spiritual progress by taking shelter of the previous realized devotees. Today, we have Bhaktivinode Thakur, who is our great-grandfather in the line of disciplic succession. And yesterday, we celebrated not only Vamana, but one of the Mahajans, whose name was?
Jiva Goswami.
Oh, that too. That's another thing. But along with Vamana Dvadasi, what pure devotee are also celebrating side by side with Vamana Avatar?
I think it was Jiva Goswami. No.
Everybody has to listen to the question here. In the pastime of Vamana, what other pure devotee are we celebrating?
Bali Maharaj. Bali
Yes. And he is one of the 12 what?
Mahajanas.
Mahajanas.
And he exemplifies which of the 9 processes of devotional service?
Atmanivedeva.
Surrender everything.
Actually, both answers are right. You can say of the 9 processes, he personifies Atmanivedam. But Atmanivedam basically means giving everything. So that's also a correct answer. He also personifies all of the devotional processes because Atmanivedam means to give everything to the Lord. So the verse is glorifying the devotees of the Lord who are better than the Ganges, who can purify one much more quickly than the Ganges, which can only purify one after prolonged use. And so seeking the mercy of Bali Maharaj and Bhaktivinode Thakur, and of course Jiva Goswami also, let's open it up for contributions. Who would like to go first in any or all 3 of those areas?
Bhaktivinode Thakur was, he's known as actually, or can be called as 7th Goswamis, actually. He's contributed so much. And then he's coming from a very wealthy family, and he himself was magistrate. So think about magistrate at that time, can you think about your social status? And still he gave up almost everything and, got into Krishna consciousness. At the age of 2 years, he wrote his first poem. And age of 2 years, right? I mean, we start learning how to eat rice in just 2 years. The most, his songs, his bhajans, all, they still carry us. But the most important thing, I believe at that time is, all this black magic, all this Devi Puja, all those were pretty prevalent, especially in Bengal. And then he was the pillar, he just came out so strong. And then he established this, culture of bhakti. Again, he carried out, Gauranga Prabhu's mission, actually. I think when Bhaktivinode Thakur was small, right? Lord Gauranga Nitan came in front of his house, no? It was maybe some other acharya. Yeah. But yeah, he contributed a lot. And then in terms of Vaman, Lord Vaman, the most funny episode I find in the whole story is, of course, the whole story is, how he came and extended. But the most important was Shukracharya, guru of Bali Maharaj. He kept saying, no, don't, he's cheating you, no. But Bali Maharaj just decided to surrender himself, and he did not listen to his guru also. And then he was liberated. Right? He got more than what he wanted. So that's what.
Wasn't there an instance where Shukracharya went into the spout of the water pot in order to consummate the agreement of giving Vamana 3 steps of land? He had to pour some water from a lota, and lotus have a little spout. So do you know the story that Shukracharya went inside that spout to prevent the water from being poured?
Mm-hmm.
No, Prabhuji.
What happened?
We don't know the details.
I know he tried his best and he failed.
I think he got poked. I think Bali took a straw and poked to clear the passage. So Sukracharya got poked and consequently dislodged as well. So how did it all end? There was a happy ending, right? Even Sukracharya, after he was defeated, he said something to indicate he really didn't mind. Does anybody know what that verse was? Mandratas tantatas yadam deshakala dyuktani.
Yeah, by chanting the holy name.
Adasank, what is it? Mandratas tantatas deshakala dyuktani. Sarvam karoti nischanam anu sankirtanam tava. He says, doesn't matter if there's discrepancies, things that should have been done that weren't done, things that were done that shouldn't have been done. He says, everything is made perfect when you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So even Sukracharya apparently is a devotee, a very exalted devotee. What else? Yes, Vijay Krishna.
You want me to give my contributions now?
Yeah.
What about the other devotees? I can wait.
We want to
Okay, you
hear
had
from
your hand raised, so I called on you.
No, I didn't raise my hand, did I?
Okay, all right, maybe you're just like...
My hand is not raised. And I can wait for the other devotees.
Bali
to
Maharaj
speak.
ki jai. You have to be careful about your expression of enthusiasm. You'll get called on. Did anybody get the communication about the, I think, 11 little known facts about Vamana from Gauravani? Did anybody get that?
No
Shall
problem.
I share some of those with you?
Yes.
You can jump in.
Yes.
So he's known by many names. Of course, the most common is Vamana. What's another common name that Vamana is known by?
Upendra?
Upendra. It means Indra's younger brother. And what other name do we know Vamana by?
Kendriya.
No. Maybe something to address him as a Brahmana boy, Batu.
Actually, it had to do with his taking 3 steps.
Oh, Trivikrama.
Trivikram. So Vamana, Upendra, and Trivikram are the most common names. The second little known fact is that apparently in the heavenly planets in Swarloka, most of the demigods worship Lord Vishnu in his four-arm form as Vamana. Now, he's obviously residing in the Vaikuntha planets, above the heavenly planets. But it would appear from this that the demigods, when they worship a Narayan form in the Vaikuntha, the one they choose is Vamanadev himself. So he has because he's like, it says, younger brother of Indra's. They have that connection, that intimate, personal, familial connection with him. That's the second little known fact. The third little known fact is that when the demigods and Indra leave the heavenly planets to go fight with the demons, Vamanadev comes down and he rides on Garuda in his four-arm form. He rides on Garuda and he flies all around the heavenly planets, protecting them. Sometimes we see military tactic is just like, for instance, when Duryodhana wanted to steal the cattle of Bharata. You remember what strategy he used? He sent one army to the border, and that drew Bharata's army to engage the advancing army on his borders. But then he sent his biggest champions like Karna and Ashwatthama and around and behind them, who started driving away the cattle. So when Bharata's army was off somewhere, how were the cattle saved? Just as an aside, there was nobody to contest. And anyway, these were the biggest Mahajans: Bhisma, Karna, Ashwatthama. So who actually finally stopped them from stealing the cattle? Just as an aside,
Arjuna?
at that time, what was his
Oh,
incognito name and role?
अर्जुन का क्या नाम था?
Don't say
नहीं, something,
good.
no, some dancer.
He was known in that year as Brihanala.
Brihanala,
Brihanala.
yes. Brihanala.
He had been cursed by Urvasi to live 1 year as a eunuch. And so he took
Yeah.
advantage of that to live in the harem. And then, of course, eunuchs in the harem never go into public. So it was a good way of keeping in private, out of the public view. But when the army was away and the cattle were being stolen, then he first of all, he started driving the chariot of the king's young son, Uttara. But then Uttara got scared and he said, turn around, let's go back to the palace with our tail between our legs. And then Arjuna said, no, it's okay. You drive and I'll fight. And then Uttara was even more scared. He said, you want me to drive, and you want me to drive for a eunuch to fight against Bhisma and Karna and Ashwatthama? I'll pass on that one. No, thanks. But then Arjuna took him to the tree where the Pandavas had hidden their weapons before they went into Virata's kingdom, and he pulled down his Gandiva bow. And then Uttara started getting a more positive attitude. He realized who Arjuna really was, and then he agreed to fight. So anyway, I just mentioned that because apparently the demons are good at tactics as well, and sometimes they'll fight head on with the demigods, but then maybe send another force around to attack the capital of Indra while their armies are engaged elsewhere. This is called a rear action common strategy. And so apparently Vamana hangs out in the planets of the demigods when the army's away to make sure that they don't get challenged from the rear. So the fourth little known, well, actually this is well known, and I'll ask you all know the answer, is that when Vamana took his second step, he pierced a hole through the subtle coverings of the universe, and then what rivers flowed through the hole that he created thereby?
Ganges.
Ganges.
Yeah, I guess the little known fact is that it's considered the Ganges and the Yamuna. They both flowed through. So we all know the Ganges, but maybe the little known fact was that the Yamuna also comes in. Fifth little known fact. This is a little known fact. Prabhupada said that on holidays like Ram Navami, as well as Vamana Dvadasi, one small boy can dress up as Vamana and be worshipped on that day. So it said here that in Mayapur every year on Vamana Dvadasi, a young Guru Kuli from the Bhaktivedanta Academy is chosen to be Vamana for the day. And he gets worshipped, he gets arti offered to him, he gets a foot washing ceremony, he gets offered a huge feast, he gets to eat whatever he wants on that day. Pushpanjali. He gets to sit up on a big seat and then distribute Mahaprasad to everybody else. It's like king for the day, right? The sixth little known fact about Bali is, well, this we already covered this and we all know this. He's one of the 12 Mahajans, and he also personifies the devotional practice of Atma-nivedanam because he gave up everything. After Vamana had, first of all, covered the earth with his first step and then covered the entire universe with his second step, then he accused Bali of cheating him. He said, you promised me 3 steps, but with 2 steps I got everything. There's nothing left. So am I to understand that you're not able to fulfill your promise? And then does anybody know what Bali said at this point to get himself out of a tough spot?
Just put your leg on my lotus feet on my head.
Well, what was his reasoning? What was
He
his
said,
reasoning?
"Put your foot on my head."
Yes, that's what he said. But how did he explain that that was the biggest step of all, that was the biggest donation?
Because Bali Maharaj, he was like, he was good. He was an exalted devotee and Mahajana, but he was having that pride that I have the whole universe and you can ask me anything and I can fulfill your wish. So he had that pride, and in the end he was surrendering himself and his pride, that I surrender myself now, you take me and my pride away from me. So I think that's how that was the biggest thing.
Okay.
Biggest decision.
Thank you for joining us, Onkar Haribo. Well, the thing is, he'd already given away the universe. He'd conquered it and he gave it away. So that was certainly humbling for him. But what was he giving away when he offered his head that was greater than the universe? What was he giving away? Shall I tell you?
The false ego.
No. Okay. Okay, here's the answer.
What about
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint, okay? And then see if you can elaborate on it, okay? If he conquered the universe once, he could conquer it twice. If he gave it away, he could later get it back again. So why was offering his head the greatest sacrifice? Okay, here's what he said, okay? The possessor is greater than the possessions. Sure, he conquered the universe once and he gave it away, but what's to keep him from then just conquering it again? And again and again and again, okay? You can give it away, give it away, give it away, get it back, give it away, get it back. I remember when I was in Los Angeles in the 80s, some of the devotees who were in business, they had these motivational tapes that they were listening to by a guy named Glenn W. Turner. And he was a funny guy. You couldn't see him. They were just tapes. You could hear him, but he had a hair lip. He talked really funny like this. But he told the story about how he had been a millionaire 12 times and lost $1 million 12 times. But he only considered that those were stepping stones on the way to, and now he was worth 15, 20 millions. But by losing $1 million once, twice, 3 times, 4, he learned from that. Every failure he learned. So if Bali conquered the universe once, what's to stop him from conquering it twice and getting it back 3 times, 4 times? See what I'm saying? So when Bali offered his head, basically he was saying, I'm your servant. Well, I'm going to do, if you don't want me to conquer the universe again, I won't. In other words, I'll do whatever you say. So the possessor is always greater than the possession. And therefore, Bali offering himself as a surrendered soul was a greater offering than offering the earth or offering the universe itself.
Yes, and my answer, he was offering his own self.
Yes.
Did you hear it?
Yes, that was correct. But we're just trying to explain why that was the greatest sacrifice that he made.
Yes, because when you offer your own self, you become a slave, like kind of a slave.
And Prabhupada said that's what we are. We're willing, we're divine slaves.
Yes.
We're divine slaves. Like the cow, which is sitting in the yard. Cow is bought and sold. So we present ourselves as bought and sold by Krishna. So by offering his head, Bali was guaranteeing that he wouldn't go back and conquer the universe for a second time. That everybody would be safe from not from Bali, he was a devotee, but his soldiers weren't the nicest people in the world. You don't want to be under their thumb. You don't want them to be taking over your capital city. Okay, then here's another little known fact, seventh little known fact. It is said that in the next Manvantar,
Swarni. Yeah.
Huh?
In the Swarni Manu, he was offered to be the king of all demigods in the heaven.
Yeah, he's going to be Manu. He either is or he's going to be. I don't know how long ago this happened.
Manu, in the Swarni Manu, the 14 Manu, right?
So
Manvantara,
that's in the future, right?
Yeah. So in that Manu,
Manvantara.
Manvantara, he will be the Manu and the king of all demigods, and he will be living in the planet Sutala.
So we're in about the seventh Manu now, right? There are 14 Manus in a day of Brahma, and I think we're in the seventh.
Yeah.
So he'll be, not for a long time, another 150 trillion years, but that'll be just before the dissolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the night, partial dissolution,
Yeah.
the night of Brahma. Okay. Then the eighth little known fact is that it says here, Vamana did not kill Bali because he'd promised Prahlad, who is, what relation was Prahlad to Bali?
Grandfather.
Grandfather. And
Yeah.
yes. So he had promised Prahlad that he wouldn't kill anyone in his family before or after his time. The ninth little known fact is that Vamana resides on his personal planet in Vaikuntha, and he also has expanded himself so that he's the door guard to Bali Maharaj's kingdom in the lower planet. So he's in Vaikuntha, and he's also in Patala Loka, I think. So the 10th little known fact has to do with Ravana visiting Patala Loka. Does anybody know that story?
He was defeated.
Yeah.
He was defeated
By
there and was
Wow.
captured actually by.
Wow.
That's true. And there's a little more to it too. He was humiliated spectacularly. How was that?
He was, he was captured and humiliated. In what way? I don't recall.
Well, from his
but-
point of view, first of all, he wanted to fight with Bali because he heard about Bali's prowess. And so he wanted to test his strength, and he wanted to prove that no one could defeat him. And so, but he didn't get to fight Bali, did he? He fought from his point of view, who was he fighting?
Doorkeeper of Bali. Doorkeeper of Bali.
He didn't know who the doorkeeper was, did he? He didn't know.
No.
So how explain his humiliation then to us from his point of view, not from ours, but from his point of view. How
Great.
abjectly was he humiliated? What is his side?
Disgusting.
If you could ever get him to tell it.
Disgusting.
Huh?
That he was defeated by a mere doorkeeper of Bali Maharaj.
I mean, how embarrassing is that for Ravana, you know? That's one story he's not going to tell around the campfire, you know? And then, not only was he defeated by this doorman, but what did the doorman do to him?
They captured him and then they.
I think flung him far.
Yeah.
Did he flung him far? Back to Lanka or something?
Flinging is not exactly the right word.
Okay. I don't know, Prabhuji.
You know, in the Westerners, when they throw someone out of the bar, there's those swinging doors, and they grab him by the seat of the pants and the shoulders, and the swinging doors will open, and he goes out into the street with the horse manure. Well, he didn't actually throw him. What part of his body did he use to propel Ravana out of the kingdom? Anybody play rugby? Anybody play rugby? They call it football, I think, in other countries.
Yeah.
So you know you have the big round rugby ball, and then you have the option. You have the option at any time. You kind of drop the ball, point down, and just either before or just as it hits the ground, you kick it. I don't know if they call it in football. They call it punting.
Punting.
I don't know what you call it in rugby, but that's what you do. You punt the ball. So that's what the doorman did to Ravana. He punted him. He took him. He dropped him. He held him up. He dropped him, and then just at the time or just before the moment he hit the ground, he kicked him.
Oh.
And does anybody know how far he kicked him?
10,000 something.
10,000 yojanas.
Yeah.
I think a yojana, I don't know, does anybody know what a yojana is? I think it's like 3 miles or something.
I guess 8 miles.
8 miles. So he kicked him 80,000 miles away. And you can imagine, like when you kick a football, you kick a rugby ball, if there's no one there to catch it, it hits and it just bounces and bounces and bounces and bounces and bounces. And you just see this proud Ravana. He defeated Kuvera, he defeated Indra, he defeated all the demigods. And after he hits the ground, he continues bouncing multiple times until he finally comes to a stop. So the 11th little known fact is that when Vamana pushed Bali Maharaj down to Sutalaloka, not Patalaloka, Sutalaloka, I don't know how many of you knew this, but Bali got permission to come back to earth one day a year. Does anybody know what day that is?
Onam. Onam?
It is Onam. Yeah, but it also coincides with another festival too. When we light the lights in Diwali, most commonly what we're doing is we're commemorating Ram's return to Ayodhya after 14 years in a flower Pushpa Vimana. And then the lights are identifying the whereabouts of Ayodhya city and giving him illumination so that he can land. But there's another reason why people light lights too. And that is, just to put it quite simply, that's the one day a year that Bali comes back too. And people they worship. He's a pure devotee. We worship pure devotees. We worship Prabhupada, we worship Bhaktivinode, we worship Lord Shiva. So similarly, when we light the lights on Diwali, we can also do that as an object of worship of Bali Maharaj too, as well as welcoming Ram back home to Ayodhya. All right.
I'm still thinking about that bouncing. After Ram dropped, after 80,000, he was bouncing and bouncing. And I'm still laughing and just picturizing that whole scenario. How will be bouncing,
If you're still thinking of, imagine Ravana, how long, how he would never forget that. You can just see it like in one of the cartoons, Okay, here's some more little known information. At Lord Vamana Dev's sacred thread throw ceremony, the sun god uttered the Gayatri mantra. Brihaspati offered him his Yagya Pavitra, sacred thread. Kasyapa offered a straw belt. Mother Earth gave him a deer skin. The moon god Chandra gave him a Brahma Danda, the stick of a brahmachari. His mother Aditi gave him a cloth for kopans. The sky deity offered him an umbrella. Lord Brahma offered him a water pot. The 7 sages offered him kusa grass. Mother Saraswati gave him a string of Rudraksha beads. Kuvera gave him a pot for begging alms. Mother Bhagavati, Lord Shiva's wife, gave him his just alms. I'm not sure what that means. And then it says, having been welcomed by everyone, Lord Vamana, the best of the brahmacharis, exhibited his Brahman effulgence, and he surpassed in beauty that entire assembly, which was filled with demigods and great saintly Brahmins.
Jai.
What else? You know, it's interesting. When Vamana came, Bali offered him anything. He offered him kingdom, anything he wanted, without limit. And when Vamana only asked for 3 steps of lands, Bali was a little disappointed because he wanted to. He was generally more generous than that, a lot more generous than that to Brahmins, and so Bali tried to convince Vamana to take more than just 3 steps of land. And then Vamana gives several verses which are instructive about lust and greed, materialism and acquisitiveness. One of the verses that Vamana utters is Yavanto Vishya Prestash. Yavato Vishast. I remember it every morning, but now I can't remember it in front of you. Yavato Vishya. Trilokama Jatendriam Nashak Nivanti Sevar Priti Pratayatam Nitam. He says that acquisitiveness, accumulation, is such an insidious disease that if you give into it, if you become the slave of material acquisition, you'll reach the point where in the whole universe, the whole universe is too small for only 2 people who desire unlimited sense gratification. You know, you talk about overpopulation. What is overpopulation? Actually, the earth, the universe, it can handle any number of people. When Krishna was here, his own personal family members were 1 billion people. There were a lot more people on earth when Krishna was on the planet than now. And yet nobody talks about overpopulation. So overpopulation is not about the number of people, but it's about their desires. It's about the level of their desires. They're greedy, they're exploitative, they're manipulative. And so they create godlessness, and then the godlessness creates scarcity. And this can become so severe that with even 2 in the whole universe, not the planet, he's not talking about Earth, but even if there are only 2 people in the whole universe, and both of them have unlimited desires, then they're going to try and get rid of each other. They don't want to share, you know. When we have guests and they're little kids, I like to, you know, give the kids some carrots from the buffet so they can go out and feed the llamas. But I have a piece of advice for them. I say, don't offer 1 carrot to 2 llamas, because they don't share. They don't share. What's going to happen is if you have 2 llamas and you put the carrot between them, you're going to get hit in the crossfire. You know, in a llama farm, they say spit happens. And most often it happens over disputes regarding food. And I say, if you're going to feed the llamas, take 2 carrots and put 1 in your left hand and 1 in your right hand and offer them separately. But don't make the mistake of asking 2 llamas to share 1 carrot, because they won't do it. So materialism is so powerful, and it never stops. You never get satisfied. So even 2 people in the universe whose senses are out of control is too much. They'll fight with each other. There'll be a showdown at the OK Corral at high noon. So Vamana says, you know, I'm a Brahmin, and I should just, the more simply you live, the more fully you can engage in Krishna consciousness. Jivasya tapajignasya. The human form of life is not meant for having stuff. It's meant for inquiry into the absolute truth. So the less things you have, the more serious you can make as your inquiry. And then also he says, you know, so Vamana Dev is telling Bali Maharaj that he shouldn't be greedy. Just take whatever is minimally necessary for someone in the renounced order of life, so one's mind is cool and calm. Bali Maharaj is also arguing the same thing, basically. He has a lot of stuff, and he doesn't see it as his personal property. He sees the fact that he has sovereignty all over the universe as the grace of God. And so he doesn't want to retain it. He doesn't want to keep it. It just becomes, you know, that verse in the second canto, Baram bara kiritajustam apyatamenga sabo korona korite lashat hale lashat kanchano va. You know that verse, Amrita Sundari? Para param kiritajus apyatamenga sabo karo. Sabo karo means hands with gold on them, with rings and rings. Bara param para, a big turban. You know, the king, he wears a big a turban with a lot of expensive cloth and a lot of jewels. But it said, unless you engage your wealth and opulence in the service of the Lord, then what is that turban and what are those heavy jewels on your hands? What do they do? Does anybody know that verse, the description in second canto by Sukadeva Goswami? If you're in the water, if you fall into the water, what's the first thing you want to do to keep from drowning? What's the first thing?
To undress yourself.
Yes.
Lighten up.
Take your coat off, take your shirt off, take your shoes.
Yes, all the weight, the weight.
Because they'll get waterlogged, and they'll make you 2 or 3 times heavier, and then you won't have the strength. So imagine if you're a king, and you have jewels and a big coat and a big turban, but you're in the water. That's not helpful. That they'll all get waterlogged, they'll all get soggy, they'll all get heavy, and you'll drop like a stone. So this is what Sukadeva Goswami says. If you're a king, unless you use your opulence to benefit others and to honor God, that turban and those jewels are just going to drop you to the bottom of the ocean of samsara.
You become a drowning person.
Yes, exactly. So both Vamana and Bali, they're basically the same type of a people. One happens to be opulent and one happens to be a renunciate. But they both, basically, they're arguing in the same direction. That nirmamo nirahankara, we should give up any sense of proprietorship. Recognize that whatever our situation it is the grace of God. And if you're a renunciate, then use your learning. Use your opulence of learning, humility, and knowledge to benefit others. And if you're a king or a businessman like Bali, use your wealth and your resources to benefit others.
There's another story, Prabhu, I don't know if it's correct. When Vaman Maharaj was walking, all the women there, they saw him so beautiful and they wanted him to be their son, like, okay, he will be our son. But then when he took away everything from Bali Maharaj, they were okay, we don't want him to be our son. They were kind of envious. But, but Lord fulfilled their desire actually. That Brahma Vimohan Leela, that's how people connect that. Okay, he fulfilled the desire of being, their son. So he was converted into calves and boys and whatnot.
Nice. Any other thoughts on Bali or Vamana?
Can I go now?
Yes.
But it's not about Bali or Vamana. It's about Bhaktivinode Thakur and 1:115.
That'll be fine.
May I?
Please. Yes.
Maybe a devotee wants to speak about Vamana or Bali. I can wait.
Go ahead.
Okay, I
please.
go. So, okay, so this is related to Bhaktivinode Thakur, and I have it here on my hands, Gaudiya Vaishnava Samadhis in Vrindavan by the author Mahanidhi Swami. And in the chapter 7, which title is Vaishnava Biographies, we have the biography of Bhaktivinode Thakur on page 65. And I'm taking from this biography 2 very short paragraphs who are extremely inspiring, at least for me. So it goes like this. You should always absorb your mind in attentively chanting Krishna's glories. By performing Krishna Kirtan, you'll gain mastery over the mind. Give up all false pride. Always think yourself to be worthless, destitute, lower, and more humble than straw in the street. Practice forgiveness like the tree, giving up all violence toward other living beings. You should maintain them. Throughout your life, you should never give anxiety to others, but do good to them, make them happy, and forget about your own happiness. Thus, when you become a pious good soul by possessing all good qualities, you should give up desires for fame and honor, and just make your heart humble. Knowing that Lord Shri Krishna lives within all living beings, you should respect and honor everyone at all times. You will attain virtue by being humble, merciful, respecting others, and renouncing desires for fame and honor. In such a state, you should sing the glories of the Supreme Lord. Weeping, Bhaktivinode submits his prayer at the lotus feet of the Lord. O Lord, when will you give me such qualities as these? And now I give you my realization related to 1115, and it goes like this. Are you with me? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
yes,
Are you
Prabhuji.
still with me?
Yes, we're here.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so my realization related to Srimad Bhagavatam 1115 is as follows. Normally, when I am invited to say something related to a Srimad Bhagavatam verse, I always consider the Devanagari, the transliteration, the synonyms one by one, the translation, and the purport. And I also give a very short realization of mine, but this is not a class, this is a very small contribution. So what I want to do is to focus on one small part of the translation, which goes as follows. Great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them. So this part of the translation is very significant, at least for me, and inspires me to say the following. There is 2 types of sages, the real ones and the fake ones. So here in this translation, we see that the real ones, the great sages, amongst other activities, what is it that they do? They take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is one of the symptoms which are there, making a sage a real sage, to take shelter of the Lord. And in contrast, what is a fake sage? What are the symptoms of a fake sage? So I went to the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 16, which title is The Divine and Demonic Natures. And I found two verses 7 and 8, which have the description related to who is a fake sage. Well, a fake sage is not different from a demon. And verse 7 says, those who are, verses 8 and 9, verses 8 and 9, chapter The Divine and Demonic Nature. So verse 8 says, the demons, they say that this world is unreal, with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. And verse 9 says that following such conclusions, the demoniac, who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. So here you have it, the symptoms of the fake sages. They in accordance with these two verses, 8 and 9, we see the symptoms of fake sages. And I say fake sages because the verse number 8 begins with the two words, they say. And we know that sages, they usually speak, they give discourses. So the discourse of a fake sage or a demon is that they say that this world is unreal, no foundation, no God doesn't exist, etc., etc. So I think that 1:15 explains very thoroughly in terms of teaching to us what is the difference between what is a real sage and what is a fake sage. And also I need to add to this contribution, what is the after effect of the action played by the real sage? And that is, they sanctify. And I went to the dictionary to see what is the meaning of sanctify. And one of the synonyms for sanctify is to bless. So whenever we come in touch with a real sage, we become blessed. And the sage has the power to bless us with material gain and spiritual gain. So the complete package. And in contrast, when we are in touch with a fake sage, I go again to the 8 and 9 verses of the Gita, chapter 16, the divine and demonic natures. The verse 9 says that if you come in touch with a fake sage, what is going to happen? You will engage yourself with him, with this fake sage, in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. So the after effect of association with a fake sage is destruction, material destruction and spiritual destruction. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Kapilji, do you want to read the purport there? Do you have the book and give us your thoughts on it as well? Do you have it there?
Sure.
Hello? Okay. It's just a short one paragraph purport here.
Sure. So I'll read the translation first. O Suta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who can in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use. Report: pure devotees of the Lord are more powerful than the waters of sacred river Ganges. One can derive spiritual benefit out of prolonged use of Ganges waters, but one can be sanctified at once by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that any person, regardless of birth, as Shudra, woman, or merchant, can take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and by so doing can return to Godhead. To take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord means to take shelter of the pure devotees. The pure devotees whose only business is serving are honored by the names Prabhupada and Vishnupada, which indicate that such devotees to be representatives of the lotus feet of the Lord. Anyone, therefore, who takes shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee by accepting the pure devotee as his spiritual master can be at once purified. Such devotees of the Lord are honored equally with the lotus with the Lord because they are engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord. For they deliver out of the material world the fallen souls whom the Lord wants to return home back to Godhead. Such pure devotees are better known as wise lords, according to the revealed scriptures. The sincere disciples of a pure devotee consider him equal with the Lord, but the pure devotee always considered himself to be a humble servant of the servant of the Lord. And this is the pure devotional path. Well, I think we have discussed a lot on this topic, some great insights. But as there was a mention of Bhagavad Gita, the book of ultimate promises, all the promises, it is a transcendental journey of around 18 chapters where we discuss various dharmas. But at the one of the most prominent verse at the end of Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna says, Sarv dharman paritajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashami mashuche. So last, I think there is a good correlation and connection between what we read last time and what we are trying to read today is abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I think when people say that what is the crux of your philosophy, and we say that there are so many messages, there's always a message for an individual, but I think the focus is on four prominent aspects of bhakti. One is love for God, second is devotion, third is service, not only to the Lord but to the devotees who are also involved in the service, and finally the surrender. And Charu, I remember, I think in the outset when we were discussing about maybe the fourth or fifth verse, you asked all of us, like, what is that one quality? And there were multiple answers. There were a lot of focus on faith, trust, taking the leap of faith. But I think the real answer that you asked us to focus on was this notion of surrender. Because if there is no notion of surrender, then everything else is superficial. And then there is always like on and off. But if you really want to have a continuous endeavor, no matter how long is the endeavor, I think the most prominent thing is the surrender piece. So that is my...
When you get married, you don't promise to love your wife 6 days a week. You don't promise to be faithful 99% of the time. So similarly, otherwise you can't really have an ongoing intimate relationship. You can have a relationship, but it's certainly not going to be intimate or sweet. You have to love her 100% of the time, and you have to be faithful 100% of the time. So Krishna is asking the same thing that any spouse would ask, and in return, he's giving the full power of the Godhead in a relationship. He's offering himself to us, and so we're not really asked to do anything more than what we're asked to do in mundane relationships, but the result is going to be totally supernatural. Rakeshji, come on in, jump in here, a man.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. It's been wonderful today, Prabhuji, hearing from you and then from all the devotees here about this verse and about Vaman Dev and Bhaktivinode Thakur. Honestly, I'm out of the words today. I'm still trying to digest how much I heard today. I'm honestly out of the words. I don't think I'll be able to add anything. I'm still digesting.
Okay, well, we'll make you do double in some future week. Okay.
Sure. Hari bol.
Let's hear from Sundari Priya and then Onkar, and then we'll go to the Kirtan. I got a text message from Ras Vilas and Amrita Sundari. They're going to the temple. They have to prepare the bhog. But also we need to remember on this morning to pray for for Ras Vilas' spiritual master, Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He's got COVID. And at this stage, it's not serious. But, we have to pray because it can escalate very quickly and very dangerously. The first we heard that Bhakti True had, I'm not alarming anybody, but I'm inciting you to do more prayers. The first we heard about Bhakti True Swami was that it was just a mild temperature, a low level. And then 24 hours later, we heard, he's on a ventilator. So, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj is he's frail. You can see that by his physical and his speech. So at the same time, he's such a jewel amongst the Vaishnavas, and he's done so much to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, given of himself tirelessly and selflessly. So let's pray that whatever low-level infection he has stays low level and doesn't get worse, because we need great souls like him on the planet, especially now. All right, Sundari Priya and Onkar, and then we'll go to any comments that Radhesham and Pavana want to make before their kirtan. We're all ears.
Prabhu, I just want to ask a question. So part of the commentaries, once we are done, if you can also help us understand, what is so we all know about the surrender, we also know about the service attitude towards Lord, but also towards the devotees. But what is the biggest impediment, Prabhuji, that you have seen in your life that hold people back?
Personally, or in terms of the society?
What is your perspective?
Well, there's nothing that can hold you back in Krishna consciousness, but there are things that will slow your progress. There are things that cause you to interrupt your progress. There are things that will cause you to disconnect from the greater society of ISKCON and then kind of lapse back into an old style of life. And we see all those things happening. We see people who are in Krishna consciousness, but after 50 years, they've lost their enthusiasm. They've lost their zest. They're just kind of going through the motions. Maybe they don't even understand the excitement of a new person. So they've gotten stuck. They've sat, soaked, and soured. So the greatest thing, the most positive thing that I think has blessed me is just the idea of always wanting to expand, of never wanting to sit still. I personally have never thought of maintaining. I don't maintain. I expand, and I'm always pushing, always thinking of ways to expand. And that, I think, is the greatest safeguard, the greatest protection that you can get, because as soon as you lose, as soon as you lose, you start slowing down. Then as soon as you slow, then you kind of come under different laws of nature, by which you get slower and slower and slower, and then eventually you come to a full stop, and then you start soaking and souring, So the trick is to never allow yourself to slow down, but always maintain enthusiasm, gusto, always have lots of plans for spreading Krishna consciousness. And then the thing that I have to watch out for is self-satisfaction. When you think, oh, we've got 2 temples, we've got a radio station, got festivals, we've got all this stuff. No, I don't have it. It was given to me by Krishna. I didn't earn it. I'm not a successful devotee. There is no such thing as a successful. Well, let's put it this way: there's no such thing as an unsuccessful devotee. Every devotee is successful, but not in quantitative terms. Our only success really is the love, the quality of the love that we have from the Lord. So the idea of having achieved something, of having had success, a feeling of entitlement, that's very dangerous, I think. And personally, I think I have to, really watch out for that, because it can undo your inner life with Krishna. It can spoil it.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot.
Right.
Haribol Prabhuji, thank you
Haribol.
so much. Very well explained to us.
There you go. The reward for devotional service is more devotional service. That's the only reward we should ever expect. Not to get a big name, not to have opulence, or not to have, anything. But you know that Krishna is pleased on you when he gives you more service, and you accept that in a humble mood.
Jai.
Sundari Priya, and then Onkar.
Thank you, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you to all the Vaishnavas for, accumulating all their reflections. And as this verse says, it takes so long to take Ganges water and purify ourselves, but one mercy of one pure devotee that is a representative of Lord Krishna himself is all you need. Sometimes we see so many devotees like His Holiness Niranjan Swami Maharaj. He was explaining one time in the Kartik Yatra that he has never seen Prabhupada. He had only taken initiation by a distant phone or something. And then one time he was preparing that Prabhupada was going to come there in the ashram. And so his duty was to, as a carpenter, to paint everything and, make Prabhupada's room extremely ready for him. But he worked really hard and he collected everything and he painted. And then in the end, they find out that Srila Prabhupada was not able to make it to the temple. But what he explained in that pastime was that he was so absorbed in taking this nothing in the room to actually make it beautiful and meditate on how his Guru Maharaj is going to live there, where is he going to sleep, where is the table going to be, so he meditated on that completely. So sometimes we may not have our gurus next to us or next to be able to serve them or appreciate what they've done, but just the Vani, just the existence of their presence purifies our heart. And that is such an essence in Krishna consciousness. And the more we associate with devotees, the more we see that. And today is the most auspicious day of Srila Bhaktivinode Thakur's appearance. And he says in Bhajan Rahasya that he mentions 6 things to follow for offenseless chanting. Ultimately, chanting is the main thing. That's how we connect. That's how our medicine is. And sometime back, even though His Holiness Gopal Krishna Swami Maharaj is not well, but he's preaching through his example. He just sent out a word to the whole world, basically. Do I just need the best doctor, hospital, or medicine to return to healthy life? No, I need my disciples to glorify Krishna more by chanting their rounds attentively. So demonstrate to Krishna that you want to please him. Give me my medicine by becoming good devotees. The medicine that will cure me is with all of you, not with doctors. Please take my request seriously. So that's his instruction to the worldwide community who's praying for him. And he expects us to do our service intact and be present in chanting the holy name. So that's my little bit of reflection when I pray for Maharaj's recovery so that we can get his instructions again and again. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Wonderful Krishna conscious advice from a great soul. Thank you for sharing that with us. Onkar. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Yes, Prabhuji.
Do you have the verse in front of you?
What is the verse number, Prabhuji?
1115. Okay, I guess you were absent. Your screen was black, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We had some visitors here, so I went to.
Oh, that's always more important, to take care of the visitors. Were 2 of the visitors Ras Vilas and Sundari Priya?
Yeah, and also Colby, who's one American. Yeah, so I went to talk with him.
Omkar is really good at receiving visitors. He's so sweet and hospitable. Do you want to say anything briefly about this verse, or should we just go to the kirtan?
I'm very sorry, I just skipped the words, so maybe we can move.
Okay. Pavana and Radhe Sham, it's up to you to give us your closing benedictions, whatever your thoughts are.
I
on the
have
verse.
just something very brief to say about this verse. It reminded me of when I was initiated, and I felt so much love from my spiritual master in that moment. Literally, it brought tears to my eyes. And so for the last 5 minutes of my initiation, I was just weeping because I was so overwhelmed by his blessing and his mercy and his love. I mean, it was just phenomenal. But that's what this verse reminded me of, you know, being touched by a pure devotee. It was amazing. That's all I need to say.
Wonderful.
Okay, kirtan time.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Prayers to Gopal Krishna
Yeah, it's on.
Hari 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 Bo. That was a very nice tune. Nice little changes and shifts and modulation. Thanks everybody for being with us. Pavana, Radhesham, Kapil, Onkar, as well as Sundari Priya, Vijay Krishna, Asvilas, Sundari Priya. Pray for Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He is in the hospital. I got an update. And next week we'll discuss the 16th verse. The translation of that is, who is there, desiring deliverance from the vices of the age of coral, who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Charu Prabhu. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great
Thank you
Sunday.
so much, everyone, for your associations.
Thank you, Guru.
Jai, Vanchakaupatarubhyascha,
Kripa
Charu Prabhu?
Kripabhyo namo namaha. Hare
Charu Prabhu, can you hear me?
Krishna,
Yes.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yes.
Charu Prabhu, you said nothing related to my contributions.
Yeah, we'll talk privately. We're going to end this right
Oh,
now.
please, because you are one of my Shiksha gurus. You are my spiritual teacher. I need to know your opinion about my contributions for today, please.
Okay, I'll answer you. Haribol.
Thank you very much. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare